I may not always love you, but long as there are stars above you, you never need to doubt it. I'll make you so sure about it. God only knows what I'd be without you, without you. And if you should ever leave me, though life would still go on, believe me, the world could show nothing to me. So what good would living do me? God only knows what I'd be without you. Do 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 God only knows what I'd be without you. Oh, I may not always love you, but long as there are stars above you, you never need to doubt it. I'll make you so sure about it. God only knows what I'd be without you, without you, without you.
Hello everyone, my name is Notepad and I write games for fun. So what are we doing today? Well, we're going to be working on the next project. You may be wondering, Notepad, isn't Errant, or what about Errant Earth? Errant Earth is effectively done. Right now, the things on Errant Earth it decides to load, because it's a big boy, and big boy projects take a while to load. The big thing with Errant Earth right now, honest to God, needs to get done is a bunch of very little things. And I need to finish the legacy occupations. Legacy occupations don't take long, they're just long enough that it's not really that fun to really look at it. I don't even really need you. So it's kind of, I'm looking at this like most of these don't take too long to fix. Most of these are there. Everything about it is done. Now it's just adding on to the plethora of little things. So Errant Earth is effectively done. It's there. If you want to look at it, you can. It's just there. But what is our next project? Well, someone approached me. How'd the 4th of July go for you? 4th of July went fine. It was a nice and quiet time. Weekend was the weekend. We got some stuff. We played Cruciform yesterday. Didn't go very well, but that's half the fun, right, everyone? At least that's what I'm going to delusionally tell myself. It didn't go well, but I didn't really expect it to go too well. Some of my fears were confirmed, others were reignited, and I realize I am very rusty when it comes to GMing. extremely fucking rusty, and I need to get back into the game a lot more. But I'm not gonna worry about that too much. Ugh. So, what are we working on? Well, technically, a commission project came onto my desk, and when a commission project comes onto my desk, I am obligated to do things with it. Yeah, Cruciform has some issues where I know how most of the issues when it comes to Cruciform are things that are, how do I best want to word it? There comes some training almost with how things are there. I think there's a lot of UI elements that I could probably end up fixing up. Some UI elements do better than others. What I need to do is I need to get Scribble. I need to get Scribble Scrunglow there. As I need him to actually make me a character sheet that is exactly the way I need it to be. This is a lot easier said than done. And probably running it in something like Foundry or Roll20 would be better in the long run. However, I don't own Foundry because Foundry costs money, and I don't want to spend money on something that I have to code myself. I held Roll20 in contempt. So the best there would probably end up being something like CC Folia, but CC Folia is a... Well, CC Folia is in fucking Japanese, so that's a little bit more complicated for me to navigate. So, but yes, new commission project. And when it comes to... How do I do this one? When it comes to commission projects, I get some oddities, if that makes sense. So, I got approached. I have no name on this. That's I think a very important thing is when we let me find it real fast. That's God damn it. Give me 1 second. I gotta. Welcome to the Void, featuring. Okay, so. Nope, that's not it. There we go. So, our current project that we're working with right now, the current one that I've been approached with and said, hey, I want to do this, is right here. So, basic premise isn't too complicated. Being able to take advantage of dimensional merge to rejuvenate their community and for the next generation. I've been jokingly referring to this, not even really jokingly, more just vaguely insultingly referring to it as redneck solo leveling. So, redneck solo leveling might sound like the worst shit you have ever encountered, and there's a reason why solo leveling is the way that it is. For those who don't know, solo leveling is a Korea slop about getting super powerful in the dungeon bottom text, and don't worry, that will be the thing that saves me. I'm gonna be honest with you, I've never read solo leveling. I have no interest in reading or watching or whatever solo leveling. Every time that someone like brings up solo leveling or anything like it, my eyes glaze over and I achieve a Buddhist state of perfection as I am simply nothing. It's truly amazing. But as you kind of see here, there are ideas here. There are concepts and premises, and I would keep referencing it as solo leveling, by the way, because that's how it was initially pitched to me. Basic idea, though, is normal town, fantasy world, merged together. That's kind of the basic premise of it. Normal town and a fantasy world merged together. What occurs from there? And you kind of see here a lot of different little things to go off of. The commissioner has sent me a rather extensive set of notes. Wasn't expecting you streaming. Of course, it's Monday. And we always stream on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or at least attempt to. But yes, that's kind of the core premise of it. Now, what I'm doing is I'm referencing a book series called 1632. For those who don't know what 1632 is, it's a book by Eric Flint about a town in the USA circa 1990s gets transported back in time to the year 1632, inexplicably, effectively, and it's what happens now that there is effectively a modern American town in the middle of in the middle of the 1600s. Things get a little bit weird, things get a little bit funky, but hey, that's the fun part about it. But it's the same premise of these people just try to now integrate themselves into the world, if that makes sense. In a time of, you kind of see here, people dressed up as Calvin and Hobbes and stuff for Halloween. Because they spread the concept of Halloween to people, and they spread the concept of, it's, hey, we have guns and shit. It's, when you are a bunch of Spanish conquistadors, how do you feel about a guy showing up with the rip and roll? How does the Dukes of Hazzard deal with people from the 1600s? That's effectively the pitch. And I'm like, all right, we can make that. But basic premise is that there's fantasy world, and now the town is there. Now, we were having some debates on the nature of the name of it, but I decided to go with a very simple name. This is a very Americanist term, Americanist phrase, but I'm going to use it here because I like it and I think it works. And that's going to be called City on the Hill. I'm not sure if I wrote this down or not, but it wasn't just a town. It was the entire world. Two worlds colliding into one. You did not write this down. Now, I'm going to express my my nature right here, because it is the way that I am. I have received effectively about 3 sets of notes, all of which are vaguely aligned with one another, and one set of these notes is a bunch of YouTube videos. Most accurately, shorts. They are shorts. So, yeah, we're probably going to keep it pretty small. Just there is a dimensional merge. This is what's occurring. This is what's happening. We don't comment on it anymore. The dimensional merge occurred, and now there is here's a fantasy, here is the fantasy world. You have now been transported inside of the fantasy world, namely just your smaller town, and the situation that arrives from there. If you want to go with the idea that the whole fucking world has been, merged together, nothing is stopping you. That is not what the scale of the game is, though. The scale of the game is, here's a town that has been haphazardly merged together with the fantasy world. You don't want that, then don't tell me that's what you want. That's what we're working with here. Yes, as you can somewhat tell, I've been getting many different notes, if that makes sense. A lot of different conceptual ideas in here. Hence why I'm taking the liberty of saying what's going on. Hence why we're using the term City on the Hill. City on the Hill is actually theoretically an Americanist term. You can apply it to a couple different things. For those who don't know, the concept of the City on the Hill is a American way of looking at things, saying that America's the greatest place on fucking Earth, and everything else not America kind of sucks. The savage wilderness is over there. We believe in the City on the Hill. The idealized place where everything is great and wonderful in our place. Thus, in this one, it's a little bit more of a literal term, where it's, yes, you are the city on the hill. You are alone in this world. You find yourself kind of in a situation in which the best way to think about it is, imagine waking up one morning and realizing that at the edge of your town has now been turned into the fucking Middle Earth. And you're like, that's kind of weird. And everyone in Middle Earth is like, that's kind of fucking weird. Like, what is all this shit? We don't understand. And everyone starts kind of that. And then it's the initial setup. Oh shit, I don't understand what's going on. Therefore, and so forth, if that makes sense. Now, there's a couple different things that people were referencing when it comes to the actual game itself. There was a dice pool system at one point. We were doing like a 2d6, 2d8 system or something similar to that. It was Jaeger, actually, who proposed... Want to come, Cletus? And one of the ideas there was the using the commissioner system called the Bone system. D100 system hasn't really been developed all that much. It exists, and that's pretty much it. Hasn't really been used for anything too specific. Of course, we called it the advanced boner system because I am a 4-year-old. Basic idea is that it's a D100 system with D6 modifiers. What does that mean? It means when you roll the dice, let's say I get a 78, you're also going to be rolling a set of D6s. You're going to be rolling, if I can draw a fucking square, you're going to be rolling a set of D6s and augmenting that result. So using it in the most basic way possible, we're just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. We add it all together, 6, 10. That means that we would be able to augment this up to 88 or augment it down to 68. Obviously, the more dice down here you have, the more you can augment, but it's a little bit more chaotic, so you want to rely on that D100 to kind of get you where you want to go immediately. Now, that's about the extent of the actual system. So we had to do some modifying with it, and I had a brain blast moment, so we can have the best of both worlds here, of the idea that it is relying a bit more on those, it's relying on isekai tropes. Again, we love isekai here in this household, right everybody? Right everybody? We're all fans of isekai here, and because we're all fans of isekai, we ended up doing a few different things. Let me open up the Das Kamishina. Yeah, it's anything. It's just a D20 anything but a D20. Now, the one thing is right here is this: people adventured for resources to build up the community. Now, I don't hate this idea. We can make this work, but we lock this in place right here. We're going to put this right here. I'm kind of going over the more schizophrenic notes right now because this is a little bit of a higher concept game than usual. Well, not that much higher concept, to be honest, but it's just a little bit odd because of the influx of notes, and some of those notes are contradictory, so I've been trying my best to make sure that this all works properly, and that's much easier said than done. But, so, right now, it's like essential, we're going to call this just the essential notes section, like things that we need to worry about. One thing we need to worry about, we need to have a crafting system. Doesn't seem like much, we need a crafting system. Okay, easy enough to understand. Let's open this up, and let's see. There we go. So, yeah, it's a little bit longer than usual. So, effectively, one of the basic ideas is that the town is home base, and town is home base, and home base is safe. well, home base is safe enough. It is not hostile like it is out there. This is a place that is familiar and good. We like being home. With Dark Materials novels? Never read the Dark Materials novels. I've heard about them. Would Tot Hack considered? Okay, so let's see. Even if you're doing your own personal side, quick contribute to everything story-wise. Downtime is also religion. I also want death to be very impactful to the community because that should be a very serious loss. So, only so many people in the community, therefore so many can afford to go on an adventure, play, untouch, untame, unfound resource together, be food, materials, use unusual allies. Shouldn't be the only one. I think the postman service on the movie. The postman could be running around delivering mail. Caravan of caravans merchants who wrote the town one day. Caravan of caravans. I also don't yuck in there like people making homemade duct tape and only fix tools, but jerry rig weapons and equipment together. Then I'll keep the corner room depending on who's using it. You can also use the whole thing where city people are doing well because trade routes not being like they used to be. Elves, dwarves, halflings, warriors, sorcerers deal with who may be better technology, but the infrastructure has been damaged because of the world merger. But a gun is still a gun. Uncle Johnny's goblin wife. Okay, a little bit sporadic. Yeah, yeah. So we know this, like we know the basics of here is fine, and that's why I was gonna go with kind of like the town path system. So, like, effectively, you have a life path where the idea of the life path is a personal character, personal character stuff. On the other hand, you also have the best way I have it so far is the town path. It's a terrible name for it. It's a terrible, god-awful name. But it would be something like, hey, the basic principle of a life path, for example, is you're going through various steps to build a character. Sometimes they're random, sometimes they're deterministic, but you're going through different steps to determine aspects about your character that make you interesting, or that give you different skills, give you different abilities. It's also a very good way for you to understand, saying, hey, there are characters, or there are people doing things that are present and able, if that makes sense. Like, why are you going out and doing this? Here's a kind of like a character story in a box. I think that's the best way of saying it. If you go all the way down there and you determine, like, hey, I'm a postman, and I'm a postman who learned how to do this. Cool. What does being a postman do? Well, it gives you different things than being a college student or being a farmer or something like that. You have different abilities and different concepts there. Like, okay, the town path would effectively be the same principle of it. Is you have the story in a box when it comes to, the town itself. Like, hey, here's this chunk of territory, this chunk of land, and there is the metaphorical city on a hill. You're doing your best over here. This isn't really a city per se, but this is like a town. This is your area. What's your town like? How many people are there? What are people like? You know, what's the general vibe of this community, and what should we know about? Because at the end of the day, I grew up in smaller towns, and generally speaking, when you're looking at a town, you can kind of see the influence of various aspects on it over the nature of how it acts. So, for example, a college town is usually, because you would have the idea of that, but you would also have the college nearby. Usually it's a state college, usually it's not a very big one. Not a community college, a college. And this has a lot of people in it. There's a lot of people there, usually more than the town itself, or at least around the same size of the town itself in points. But now suddenly the town is kind of a... The town services the college, and the college, you know, relies on the town. On the other hand, now you have a bunch of people who are not from here and are more willing to do things, more willing to go, more willing to, you know, experience things, or may not even be entirely comfortable being in that town. I've seen that quite a bit. However, if we were to go over here, we're a prison town. What does this mean? What does being a prison town means? It means that there is the town, and then a ways away, there is a fucking prison. And I've seen these towns before. Usually this is where like a lot of like security guards live. Usually that's where there's a lot of services, a lot of things. It changes the large, you know, vibe of a community. It says, hey, now there, like, what do you do with people in that prison? Probably not good people. On the other hand, we're all in the same shithole at this point, so we may as well work together. And kind of using that to determine aspects about the town, and in turn, aspects of what you might need to worry about in it. Hey, everybody. We're a weird up-and-coming starter, you know, like, we are let's think about it, like, we are an established industrial community. We are rural, not Midwest necessarily, we're rural, East Coast, we're there. We're in this now, we're Virginia coal, this is a Virginia coal mining town. And because it's a Virginia coal mining town, people here are different. People are rougher, people are a little bit more gung-ho about getting your shit kicked in. But you also have a lot more, you know, a larger industrial, you have an industrial base a lot more. You have a kind of, you're a lot more insular, where you don't really deal with other people as much. Not necessarily the fact that we can't feed ourselves, it's more like, we just don't like other people coming into our community, but we're also a lot poorer, so it's like there are a lot stronger divides of haves and have-nots. Okay, so that's one way of looking at it. Alternatively, hey, we are a small religious community out from fucking Utah or something. We're a small religious community out in fucking Utah. We're all kind of in this clusterfuck together. We are united under a single, you know, a single faith or something like that, and we're all now a lot more comfortable. We have a leader already. We have people we listen to because he's a religious leader. He is a, you know, something like that. How does that influence the town? How does that influence people? How does that influence the way you approach things? That's kind of the idea of the town path. Yeah, like, it's right now, one of the big things that we were having debates about, and one thing that I wrote up was this system, the rank system. Now, the basic premise of the bone system is that sometimes you roll over, sometimes you roll under. Ooh. Now, what I was going to be doing here is, let's say, for example, we are perfectly average, we are C rank. We are C rank in, we have C in like C rank strength, for example. This is just a very basic idea. C rank strength, and we want to push a boulder. We want to push a boulder. Effectively, that might be a negative 40. That might be a negative 40. A negative, that might be a negative 40, STR check. What does that mean, though, is because we're C rank, our act is 50, modified by negative 40. We have to roll 10 or under for this action that we're trying to do. Now, let's say, for example, oh wait, I did that wrong. It's, which would be plus. We have to roll, we're rolling over to act, rolling under to save. Yeah, that's it. So, effectively, we need to roll over 90. Again, this is a very weird idea I came up with, and I'm trying to do my best to kind of do that. So, we need to roll a 90 or higher on a D100. Cool, that's a lot more difficult. That's something we are trying to act. We are trying to act to do something. On the other hand, let's say we have a rank. We have A rank strength. Now we have A rank strength, and if we look at that, as an A rank in this thing, let's see what our act is. Our act is 10. So our act is 10. We add 40. We need to roll a 50 or higher on a D100, modified by D6s. Now we would modify it by D6s if. Now the question is two things. One, where do modifiers come in? Actually, I should say, where do flat modifiers come in? Weird question. Where does this come in? Is it purely just a action taking place? Is it purely just a situation unfolding? I don't know. Is it items, maybe? Who knows? That's a question. 2, where do skills come in? Initial thinking is skills are the D6s. So technically, pushing a boulder, our base attribute would be our strength, but it would be strength, push a plus 40 strength, what would be a good way of, we'll just call it like athletics or something. Athletics 6. If we have athletics 6, that's roll 6d6 and then modify our result here. Someone who is... This kind of leads to a couple different ways. It is the idea of, I am a C rank. I am average at something. I am a C rank in strength with a lot of skills. I have a lot of skills, i.e. I get more D6s to modify. Versus I am a rank above average, far above average. In strength with few skills, less D6s to modify. Who has the advantage in this situation? I really don't know. Technically, the person with an A rank, someone who is a lot stronger than that, would have the advantage inherently, but but they're effectively relying just on a D100 roll. Where you kind of see here, roll over if you want to do something, roll under if you're trying to resist something. Notepad, how do I roll over a -10? That's right. Exactly. If you have no threat against you, being an S rank means you just succeed. It's not a question of if, it's a question of yes. Yeah, it's like if you are an S rank in something, you effectively succeed unless you have a penalty. Again, if you look over here for our boulder, if I have an S rank in strength, the concept there would be we apply this, And we apply our S rank here. Our act is -10, therefore plus 30. We'd only need to roll a 30 or higher on a D100. That's pretty reasonable. Being average is a lot more difficult. If you want to be Chris boulder punching fucking Redfield, but you're an average person, it's there. Now, my initial thinking when it came to like advancement, you know, you kind of see the advancement here, is you can go point A to point B. You can go from an F rank to an E rank to a D rank and so on and so forth. Easy enough to understand. Now, because we're cruel and we are we believe in cruel and unusual punishment here, you kind of see everything is divided into 20s. That was kind of our baseline. What we were thinking about doing, what I was thinking about anyway, is you have the option of either advancing like up a rank by 1, effectively a plus 20. But if you want to advance normally per se, let's say you want to advance, quote unquote, just like as I'm just training, I'm just trying to get better, I'm trying to better yourself the normal way, you know, which is reliable. You know, it's reliable, but I don't know what I'm doing there. You know, it's reliable, however, it's also time consuming. It's something that is eating away at your time, and it takes for fucking ever. You know, you kind of see the idea of so maybe if I just zoom this up a little bit, you kind of see the issue here. So if you want to be, if you start off as like F plus rank, you don't go to E rank next. You go to E minus, E rank, E plus, D minus. You know, it takes a long time. You're effectively doubling the number of steps you have to take naturally. But if you take the fucking cultivation, yeah, you take the cultivation bullshit level up pill, you get to go from an E rank to a D rank. You know, C to B. You get to skip the intermediaries, and you just get what you want. Oh, 3 houses based advancement. Very based. Complication dice, maybe? Complication dice are like one idea. So, I mean, we would add like a... Let me see. Ooh. You know, I could probably put my... I could probably... You know what I'm gonna do? Going to try... We're gonna try something new today, everyone. Which is to say, we're gonna try something I always do. Before I decided to invoke my my power of Snap, Crackle, Pop. Let's do... Alright. Put you up there, finally. Yeah, we're putting my keyboard up so I can actually use my keyboard reliably again. Okay, so... we would need to have, like, complication... You know, you need complications and other such issues. Like, where did that come from? Like, where do we even deal with, like, stats or something like that? I don't know, really. And I think that's one of those complicated factors where I don't really know. It doesn't feel like there's a right answer. Oh, we got a manly. I can attempt to stretch. Hello, Misato Manly. It's been a while. Let's. There we go. I get one arm pretty reliably. Can't really do the other yet. Probably won't be able to stretch that one reliably in a while. Ooh. Hey, I have my doctor's appointment tomorrow, so I get to see if I'm dying of ligma. So if I'm looking at this, so if we're really trying to think of like how do we refine this out, because this is telling me if I were to be a betting man, a guessing man, you could say, is we're going to need a lot of skills or use skill sets. Now, what do I mean by skill sets? Instead of having like instead of having 5 skills, instead of having 5 skills, you instead have a set which covers effectively those 5 skills. Your skill set covers everything here, but you get, instead, or do we want to have individual? I think the best way to think about it is, do we want you know how to actually fight? Do you want the, we'll call it even like ranged combat skill set or something. Or, yeah, actually, no, if we want to be specific, let's say, we have the police officer. Let's say we have the police skill set. The idea of the police skill set is that we would have every skill that being a police officer would have. On the other hand, looking at it from a different perspective, do we want to build a police officer through having the appropriate skills? I'm a police officer, I get the appropriate skills, or I'm a police officer, I get these skills. That's kind of the priority there. I think that has... Both of them feel valid. I don't know which one's more damage. Yeah. Skill set of a policeman, exactly. But if you really think about it, you are a beat cop. What skills do you think you would have as a beat cop? Probably athletics. You'd have investigation, driving, range combat, firearms. You know how to shoot a gun. And even something, it sounds terrible to say, but something like profiling, where the idea is not necessarily, oh no, minorities. It would be more along the idea of, okay, this guy is clearly doing fucking crime. Like, we can tell what he's doing. The goblin does not shiftily look on the corner, scratching at his coat if he's not selling fucking dope. Small collection of skills. Yeah, both feel like they're having a valid way of doing things. Because the question is, this is the big question. When you are making this pushing a boulder check, you want to push a boulder aside. Do you call for the athletic skill, or the fact that they are a athlete? By virtue of being an athlete, or do you have the athletic skill, which is under the fact that you're an athlete? It's just it's a flow chart, effectively. Where do you start and where do you end? I want to use the athletic skill, therefore I use my athlete skill set. Because I have the athletic skill set, do I have athletics? Yes. Okay. What does this mean? What does that mean? There's a couple ways of approaching this. Some of them feel righter. Yeah, that's like an option too. If we go with the full skill set system, then it would be like, oh, you're a police officer, you can get like a specialty in firearms or whatever. That would give value to skill sets with multiple things under it, if that makes sense. I'm a police officer and I'm a veteran. If you're a police officer and a veteran, both of these cover some similar things. However, now you can have a specialty in firearms. You can now have a specialty in, the police can have a specialty, as a police officer, you have a specialty in profiling goblins. As a, soldier, you have a proficiency or whatever in shooting bullets. But this does bring up the fact that we need to use, I think this is probably going to go in with kind of the crafting, with a little bit of the crafting idea, but it's the integration of magic and mundanity. I was thinking about having effectively a meta currency. I'm going to put this note over here, like a meta currency, which is mana. Now, that sounds weird, but you could put it into the deep lore of the series being like, yes, you guys can get a little bit stupidly powerful or a little bit earlier on than most people have to. So I've spent my entire life training to be a paladin, and now I have this. Yeah, because people of this world have very normal, their entire life has been prefaced by being suffused with magical energy. You guys aren't. It reminds me of one post. It was a YouTube short I saw, one of those stupid YouTube shorts, where it was like the in Lord of the Rings, people disbelieve fantastical things, but to them, fantastical things are a lot different. That's kind of the, fantastical things are a little bit different. Hey, there's no such thing as an army of ghosts. That's ridiculous. But they won't look, it's one of those things like, they won't think twice about the fact that there are giant eagles. That's not the point. They look at that and say, yeah, of course there's giant eagles. We see them cross the fucking plains every now and again. You don't bat an eye when it comes to a centaur existing. When a priest says, oh, okay, heal, you heal. It's like, this is a perfectly natural thing to them. However, you're not used to that. It does appear fantastical and weird and wonderful. On the other hand, probably a lot of fantasy people would think a light switch is pretty fucking fantastical. They would, the expectations of what fantasy are get changed over time. They don't think a centaur is weird. We think a centaur is weird. They think a car is funky. We're kind of concerned that our fucking convertible is running out of gas. That's kind of the back and forth there. And I'm like, okay, the idea of you guys get mana a lot earlier, and that's why you're predisposed to being heroes. It's like, okay, that's funny in its own way that you can play very mundane characters, relatively speaking, who still can be like, oh, I'm like a paladin. Oh, I'm like a magic, I'm a wizard or whatever. You get that earlier because you pretty much got superpower juice. You got mana right off there, and that's kind of what I'm thinking about as like a meta currency, being to boost yourself up a little bit more. We can put it, it's lore appropriate, and hey. Wait, how the hell would a displaced modern city in a fantasy world sell gas or electricity? They wouldn't. Like, that's the funny part. They wouldn't. But you would have, like, the gas in your car kind of thing, or whatever's available. That's why it's like some communities would have that initial thing earlier on and a lot more efficiently. hey, our town is literally built by a power plant. Yeah, the power plant came with us. We are we have, at least for a couple years, ready access to electricity. Hey, we are built on a community like this. We have, for at least a while, a ready access to things like that. You wouldn't have the internet necessarily, but if we think about it, if we look at some of if you look at some like these isekai fantasy stuff, you have things like, why do they have electricity? And they usually justify it by magic. Why does this fantasy world have something vaguely related to electricity? Because of magic. With the idea being that later on, when you start integrating magic and the mundane, hey, we need to power our lights. How do we do that? We need you to find mana crystals. Why? Because we can convert mana crystals into electricity. We just put them in this horrifying makeshift nightmare creature we built from a couple dryers and washing machines. Like, congratulations, here's our new nuclear power plant. It's in Ted's basement. Yeah, and just that would be kind of the grander narrative. If we go with the idea that this entire world is effectively being a little bit fucky-wuckied. That could be kind of an interesting premise, or at least an adventure or something similar to that. Like, okay, cool, you're over here, but you're over here. This is your private little Idaho. Like, this is your little community that you have established and are building up. On another side of the world, you have like a third of New York City currently engaging in what can best be described as Orc City gang wars. You know, it's just like you have pocket marked of other quote-unquote normal civilizations. And it would be that weird scenario of, hey, wait a second, where did you say you're from? You're from Tokyo? Hey, man, I'm from Massachusetts. Hey, you're from Bangladesh? Holy shit! Where the fuck are you guys from? Did you get transported here alone, or are you there? And that's how you can also have a yeah, New York City, baby. You can come. And that's kind of the idea, is like you're building up that gravitas where it's like, oh yeah, here my community in Bangladesh got transported deep south here. We've been we're effectively a micro community trying to hold off the fucking hordes. Dwarf has fallen into the river in Orc City. Start the rescue helicopter. And it would be like one of those ideas of like, oh, you could do it kind of like, oh, that's kind of funny and, kind of funny and random, of like, oh, the Germans found the dwarf city, are in dwarf lands. Bangladesh ends up in its own like horrible Australia or whatever. But you could also just make it almost seemingly random. Yes, a third of New York City has been transported effectively kitty corner to fucking Orc City. You go to New York City kind of thing, and it's like, yeah, here's half of this city just rapidly expanding, rapidly building up, because suddenly 5 million people showed up in the middle of this area. Orcs don't want to fight them. Humans don't want, and they're like, hey, clap hands, let's fucking go. And then it's like, okay, yeah, what happens to this? Yeah, again, there's ideas there, and it would just be, we've been haphazardly shifting things around. And that would be like a kind of part of the town path as well, is this like, where did you end up? Because I want you to think, if you're thinking of the same kind of premise of a campaign, you are a normal town getting transported somewhere in the fantasy world, I'm going to propose 3 scenarios to you. And the scenario 1, scenario 1, you are in your cool house and you are next to the Griffonian Empire. You are in the Alliance of Good People. Yeah, you're in fucking World of Warcraft Alliance. What would that be different? Would your community be like, fuck yes, we're going to help the generic good guys, if that makes any, if we like isekai good guys or whatever. Yeah, like you're the generic good people who do the good things for the good reasons. That's all the fucking. I'm trying to find, like, here's the good guy faction immediately post-Hitler. I see. But you get, it's like the very generic setting of, like, it's the good people. Contrasting this, you're now effectively in the territory of, the fucking knife-ear, the fucking knife-ear civilization. Yeah, are you now entering effectively into Cold War with a bunch of fucking elves who now hate you? Because you took out half the fucking forest. Essentially by no toying of your own. You just took out half the forest. What goes on here? Yeah, it's not really solo leveling, more isekai fantasy in general, but I think that could be interesting. It's just like, hey, what would you do if a small Mormon community effectively landed outside Orc City, kind of thing? It's like, oh, Orc City, it's like, yeah, unfortunately, the orcs have a new religious order, and it's fucking Mormonism. Yes, they believe in Mormonism. Yeah. It's... And it's just like, alright, it's stupid, it's kind of silly, but that would change the nature of a campaign more via this, kind of the town path as you're developing developing the town. Where did you land? What's going on? And you could have situations like that of like, yeah, a third of New York City landed in the Elven Forest, and yeah, it's not been pretty there. Hey, it's, the entirety of Omaha, Nebraska has been haphazardly thrown into the fucking ocean. God, I hate Omaha. I don't like Nebraska, to be perfectly frank with you. But, alright, I think that's reasonable enough. So, like... So right now, we're going to just... So, we do something, let's see, actually, I don't like being able to say power abilities, but... So, let's do... I guess if we want to go down the full-on... If we want to develop the full-on isekai bullshit super tropes, and we just kind of have to accept that fact of life, I guess what would happen is, what does your class give you? Like, hey, you randomly rolled, effectively, to determine your stats to become a hunter or a hero or whatever the fuck. To get access to your bullshit superpowers, you rolled, what is your class? Fantasy World says, duh, farmer. How do you work with this? do these come in? There also is the actually, if we want to do that second one, we should do is if we want to go with the idea of like there's a, how do I want? Do you have this natural progression of time going on? Oh no, our town has been haphazardly thrown into, you know, good boy human kingdom, you know, the kingdom of the good guys or whatever. You know, at first we are divided. Second phase, we're technically in a, like, we're in a full alliance. Like, we haven't declared that we're like servants of the empire or whatever, because we're really not, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. But like, we're in this together. We're humans for life. We're in there. But then it's like, oh, at 3, you know, we've effectively just become part of the kingdom, you know, the good guy kingdom at this point, and we would consider ourselves citizens of this nation just as much as they consider us citizens there. It'd be like it'd be that, like, I would say almost like generationally, but it's like, okay. On the other hand, if we're looking at it from a different perspective, let's say we ended up next to, you know, let's draw it correctly. Let's say we end up next to Orc City. Actually, if we want to do this right. Well, if we end up next to Orc City, what happens? Do we fight them? Do we try to fight them? Are we also entering into a kind of mutual alliance? Like, we don't know, nor do we care that you are considered like the bad guys of this society, you know, of this world. We don't care really. And then multiple, you know, generation, you know, like the 3rd generation or whatever, or 2nd generation or whatever. I don't fucking know how I want to do it. A character dies. You know, a character dies tragically. Effectively, you have the option of, I want to play I want to play a standard human from the town, or I can play a goblin. I can play a goblin if I want, or I can play an orc. You know, with the idea being Orc City and and your community have effectively integrated with each other as much as they have, where you are, you know, you have orcs on street corners. There are people who live in your town who are not human anymore. There are people who live in this society, in your society, that are not human anymore. First time you don't get that. Second time, you know, the 2nd generation is like kind of more of your choices and your basics. And then the 3rd one's kind of the culmination of everything, or 4th or 5th, however the fuck I want to do it. If you fucking hate elves, you're not going to get elves, if that makes sense. You're going to end up with, yeah. So I just binge read this one crossover fanfic, freshly turned Gangrel. He's kind of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Oh no. Change the nature of man. Hank Hill shows up in an army of skull, claiming haul their asses, stealing away his reserve propane tanks. Yeah, it'd be like, what would Hank Hill do in an isekai? It's a weird question to ask, but yeah, it's like yeah, I think this would be the, like, the basic premise almost is like, hey, what would Hank Hill do over the generations, over time? You know, what would be going on with someone like Hank, someone like, you know, people from Arlington or something like that. You're seeing the idea where you can turn this into a variety of things that are goofy. Did you have this meeting while I was asleep during hurricane? No, I've just been here streaming. Ooh. I think we can make something like this work. It's a little goofy, but goofy is fine with this. But yeah, right now we've got our rank system, which I don't know how I can make this better or worse or things like that, because it feels like there's ways to do that which would be funny in their own right. We're going to need to have success levels. Alternatively, if we don't want to do the life path thing, we could do like a... It would be annoying, but we could do something like a... Did you have this meeting to occur? No, it was... I think it was Saturday, Sunday. We were debating systems, and your bone system got proposed. That's kind of the idea there. We decided to go with the bone system, or as I call it, the advanced boner system, because boner boner. More like Police Squad, but in some combination of vampire, werewolves, murder hobos, and they're supposed to sell supernatural crime. Oh yeah, there's some silly things you could do with the... Really, I was thinking about this the other day. This was one part of the video tomorrow I debated on adding in, but I might not at this point. I know what I want to talk about with it. Here's the thing. Originally, tomorrow's video, when I called on the schedule... let me find my schedule real fast here. Post. So, what I put down there is the impossible dream and unfortunate reality. The original idea of that video was based off a TG thread, actually. A TG thread I got very fascinated in, because I was like, I'm genuinely interested in talking about things like this. Let me see if I can find... let's see if I can find... I'm trying to, like, scan it right now. This is easier said than done, because TG sucks. Here's the thing. I love TG. I love you, TG. You are the best place to talk about tabletop role-playing games in the year of our Lord 2025, and from every other year going forward. However, holy shit, there's a lot of spam these days. But it was this thread right here. What kind of gap is there in the RPG market that isn't being filled? You had some basic, like, oh, it's, D&D, but good. And, oh, that's just Neverwinter Nights. And then, it was just like, okay, well, we just want to, that. Hey, we want a really hardcore sim system. We want non-violent historical fantasy. We want things like that. I think that's interesting, and there's something interesting to say about that. And I was like, what would be, games and mechanics that feel like they should exist but don't? Hence the name, The Impossible Dream and the Unfortunate Reality. Why isn't there an animal RPG? Because it's a bitch to do. Why isn't there a full-on Fire Emblem-like system? Because it's surprisingly a pain in the ass to do it the exact way that it is. Cole can attest. Why, as soon as I interrogated Dr. DM about how he made his game so fast and what's to use, I got rid of the 5 billion tabs left on my computer during hibernation. I was going to work on the bone system game where the bone system was going to be used. Yes. But what I probably am going to end up doing is I'm going to be talking about a white whale project. As you can see right here. This was me, by the way. Yes, I want a sports RPG. I've been fucking hunting for a good sports TRPG. Fucking hunting, and it doesn't fucking exist. And I'm so mad. There's only one that I know, and it's Deadball. But it was, it moved over to Birthright, by the way. Birthright is perhaps one of the most fascinating fantasy things I've ever read. And I have a deep affection for Birthright. Birthright sucks, though. Like, I want the people to remember, Birthright is not a very good setting, and it's not a very good, second edition setting. And there's a lot of issues with Birthright, mostly when it comes to the core premise not being great. But I'm like, what would you do in a situation like this? Because a game that I actually love is the Gorgon's Alliance. I don't know if anyone's played Gorgon's Alliance before. I don't know if anyone has dealt with this before. Very interesting game. It's a very interesting, strategy, CRPG thing from back in the day. Very unique, one of a kind. And I was thinking about it being like, why wouldn't, this could work as a fun game. Honest to God. And I've looked for it, and I can't really find any other TTRPG that does exactly this. And if there is out there, it's a D20 game. Or it is my beloved and doomed Song of Fire and Ice, its Chronicle system. Which doesn't also do exactly what I want, because I like the idea of that. And I'm like, okay, and that's what the video is going to morph into, is how do we make it? Why is making a Birthright game so fucking hard? And how do I do it? And that's one thing I want to do. God. Fucking Birthright, man. Love me some Birthright. Wait, did the new D&D stuff really make orcs into Mexicans? Why? New D, let me find D&D orcs. Now, what they did was, this is the image, everyone. Yeah, they're Mexican coded, or they're not all that. They're just that way because reasons. Mind you, they're not Mexican coded. They are Southern Texas coded and North Mexico. They are North Mexico, Southern Texas, circa 1995 coded. Remember that. Honest to God, Aztec orcs would fuck. Mayan orcs. Probably, yeah, you kind of see there. Would that fucks. Alright, you got all that. Cool, I'm in. Let's fucking go. I'd be down for this, but they don't do that because D&D is cringe and everyone involved in it sucks. But yes, they're night. I knew it! Houston is Orc City! Let me see, listen here is not the right jam project. I knew it! Incan Orcs, Dallas Goblin Town. Dallas Goblin Town! Sorry, Orc City. Orc City doesn't need Goblin Town. But yeah, the idea is interesting, and why I like Birthright as much as it is, because things change depending on your race and your class, and like, oh, hey. Oh, ow. Apologies about that. Ooh, no. So, one thing about it is the idea of being able to say, I am playing Durgan Ironhammer or whatever, and I'm established my own barony here. I am allied with this person over here. I'm allied with the elf, Langorthrow or whatever. He has his own domain. We work together. And like a really kind of like, not restrictive necessarily, but like, yes, dwarves and elves. It's just like, do they work together? Do they want to work together? Does Orc City is real, but do you want, how do you mold your own society into this? Prefaced by the fact of, with fantasy races and going on adventures. Because I thought, hey, wait a second, why don't we add Ars Magica shit to this, and it would be fucking astounding. I don't know what it is, but there was a single thing that I've been debating on. For those who've been around a while know, I adore the Border Princes in Warhammer Fantasy. This is a very specific thing. But I love the Border Princes. I think it's a really fascinating place. It's a fascinating place that they don't talk about too much in Warhammer Fantasy. And that's the point why I like it so much. They don't talk about it enough because it's just so chaotic. And it's like, oh, all these different cool little things. And you could have those more ridiculous societies in there with, more crazy shit going on. Hey, I'm playing a knight who's recruited a bunch of goblins to be my loyal followers unto hell. Yeah, here's behold my barony. We got all this, but I would want to expand that out, and that's probably what the video is going to be tomorrow, for Wednesday anyway. Is me explaining why I fucking love the Border Princes and why it's my favorite part of Warhammer Fantasy and why we can make a Birthright game out of it. Because that shit's hard. Oil, get its little eagle. Yeah, and that would... You see as well, like, how City on the Hill could be fun. Where it's like, oh, hey... Here's this town where there is a single like massive oil baron. Your fucking JR and JR and company. I completely forgot Ewing. You got the Ewing family. Like, imagine I guess the question would be, imagine the characters from Dallas, the television series, being put 15 miles away from Orc City. Like, chicanery ensues. Like, that's how I want City on the Hill to feel like. Is like, okay, here's a problem. Here's our town. Now we are being kind of spliced into the middle of a fantasy world. And there's a part of me that wants to make, like, a bespoke fantasy world. And there's another part of me that doesn't want that to be, like, you, the players, design the fantasy world. Versus you, the players, you just get put on this fantasy world and that's just what it is. See, if I were to do, here's the thing. Ow. If I were to, here's the thing when it comes to City on the Hill. City on the Hill could be fascinating in the regard of trying to morph things together, but do you want to roll on a chart? Ooh. Do you want to roll on a chart saying the orcs are Incan coded, they live in the south, you rolled in the south, here are your new Incan orcs, here are your new Native American orcs or whatever, here's all these things. Do you want to roll on a chart to kind of determine what's the immediate area, what's any of that, or would you rather have, in the south, orcs are X, Y, and Z? And in the north, there's the human, good and human nature and whatever. I think there's validity to both of those, and maybe how the commissioner wants to handle it. I'll send him a DM or something about how he would want to handle that. I think the town path is the right choice. I think the life path sounds correct enough. Don't know how I want to handle skills. I don't know if I want to have classes, or if I do have classes, are those just skill sets? I don't know. Yeah, and in City on the Hill, hey, if you want your town to be effectively a good chunk of the fucking res, and you end up next to the Lakota, the Lakota elves, it's like, okay, that's a way of. Yeah, there's a way of doing that, but I'm like, okay. I'm getting pinged by someone. Who's pinging me? Yeah, so it sounds like he wants like a randomized. See, what we could do, in a weird way, there's one way we can. Let me Yeah, this is a very old game I need to fix one day, but it's also a pain in the ass to fix. I tell you what, because the premise behind this is that it's effectively a 4X game. It's a 4X game in which you zoom in and start hacking people to death with it. Let's see. We have creating a civilization section. That's not a bad idea. Okay, you shouldn't be there. It's fixing this there. I could use this. You know what? Yeah, I could probably use this system, adapt it over to City on the Hill. Don't you know, this is just all a prolonged explanation of me, No. Yeah, when it comes to oh, you're Umbral Elf, Mr. Khan. See, the problem, yeah, that would be like one of those things where, like, I like the generation premise of, like, your town is advancing along with the ages, alongside the fantasy world a little bit. And just how integrated things become. Or do you try to form Neo-America, effectively? Do you choose to stand alone as a unique people, or do you try to, like, hey, we want to join the fantasy world? Actually, So the idea of the community touchstones, I don't know how I would end up doing it. This is kind of just an idea I found. It would be the idea of, in town you have Dr. Cirrus. You know, genius doctor man, effectively. You know, troubled genius kind of thing. He is, by default, you would consider him to be a quest giver. You know, he's kind of the quest giver. But he's become a kind of a point of the town. Future generations change the nature of him and his legacy. Soon it's like, hey, if you want to go down the let's integrate our technology with the fantasy world and stuff like that, he becomes more, deified and saintly. He's the father of the magic battery. He's the father of, he has become more of an impactful person. Hey, Dr. Cirrus is a flagrant hyper-racist and fucking hates elves, but we want to ally with the elves. Dr. Cirrus has somewhat been replaced by a more malevolent figure who is the evil racist doctor who hates elves or whatever, that we want to be friends with. Alternatively, it's like, hey, we want to do this, and the kingdom, the kingdom of evil people don't like him. How do we if he is martyred effectively by the evil kingdom of evil people, he is now a different kind of touchstone. He has become a major part of the community and the nature behind him. As you advance, things change. Oh, it already exists. It's Table Derby. That's the funny thing, and like I have to remind people, and you are not the first person to ask this, by the way. This is very important. You are not the first person to ask. I believe this is the most recent version. But yeah, no, this is quite literally just Table Derby. This is a Japanese TRPG by a company, by people called PBM, I want to say. Yeah, actually, no. Remember to buy the book. Here's a PBM? No, it's not PBM. These people. These guys. He's a nice guy. I follow him on Twitter. He really likes skating. Which, by the way, if I find a copy of it, rest assured, I'm going to be forced to Dewong this. And there is the bonus book, by the way, adding in more things. No, that's not getting Dewonged right away. The cards were annoying enough. But, yes, I didn't quite realize this, by the way, when I was first going through Table Derby. There are mechanics that are taken one-to-one from the mobile game. And from what I've gathered about the mobile game, and the one currently on Steam, it is effectively almost a perfect copy in some respects. Including the fact that you will probably end up getting glue factoried. But yeah, kind of see, here's the race sheet. Very unique game, and I even looked at some of the skills. I'm like, why, man, these look eerily familiar. Let's fucking go! It's good old horse girls. See, what I get to do, if someone says you should make an Ume Mizume TRPG, what I get to do is technically just say, fine, I'll make Ume Mizume D&D. And you may be wondering, Notepad, what do you mean? And I was thinking about this with I feel pretty confident here. Let me think. Let me see if I can find it. It's not board war game thing. Right here. Yeah, how does one make a Snoot game TRPG? Things like that. And I wanted to ask a very simple question in my life. What is generic in a non-generic setting? It's a weird question to ask, and it's a weird question to say, and you won't really get it until you think about it. So I'm going to explain it the best I can. What does elf D&D look like? Not necessarily there are elves in it. The fact of what would an elven society make their tabletop role-playing game fantasy, their TTRPG shithole, how would they look at it? We think humans are the default line. Now the elf is the default line of how they would see it. I know, you're playing a human, you have -7 intelligence or whatever. Shit like that. And in this same idea, if we look at this, the idea there is, what does Uma fantasy look like? You may be wondering, this seems kind of weird to ask. And the question is the premise is very simple. Yeah, we'll bring Goldship in. Actually, let me see if I could find the right image. Because technically, what we would consider in canon, most characters are built are as strong as a fucking horse. They have running lanes because they're as fast as a fucking. What would you do with somebody that is as strong as a horse and fast as a horse, and they're just a part of the normal? They're just part of the norm. This is just a normal thing, but you also don't have the premise of there are no horses. Who the fuck knows what happened in this setting? Who the fuck knows? And it's just they're never gonna talk about it. That's not the fucking point. It's not the fucking point that they're doing that. The point is, we want to make money off of horse girls. The more you think about it, the more horrifying the setting gets. Let's just say that. So, that's a good question. Yeah, it's a weird question to think about. Not necessarily, mostly from a world. You can kind of look at it from more of a world building perspective. That's how I would, or not necessarily a design perspective per se. But we consider things to be the default because we are human, and we have to build around that. If you ever want to know why humans in various settings feel like they suck or they are adaptable or whatever, understand is because you're human. Yeah, and it's how do you explain how strong a dwarf is? Well, they're stronger than me. No, they're stronger than humans. Okay. How do you explain how graceful an elf is? Well, they're more graceful than humans. That's kind of the idea. On the other hand, if your default assumption for characters are elves, compared to what they would think about themselves, and this is kind of a way to think about elf society in a little bit a way of classical elves, if you don't want to be specific about it. How do they view people? If you were to go to the Elves of Rivendell and say, "Hey, Elves of Rivendell, how do I, what are your position on humans?" Would it be positive? Be yeah, they're fucking weak, they're slow, they're stupid. Oh no, okay, so I am being called away currently. Can someone explain to me? So long say they have hype moments, but plot is lacking, true or not? We tasted the cattle probably, I don't know. So, to give you an idea, Sword World, not Sword World, Solo Leveling has a, from what I've gathered, people have told me this, it's a lot of But he's going super duper Saiyan. Holy shit, he's leveled up to 90 billion or whatever the fuck. You know, like that big thing. But you don't really have that minute to minute plot, if that makes sense. You're just like, yeah, it's hype moment, you know, big exciting thing. Blah 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 blah, big exciting thing, blah 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 blah, big exciting thing. If we were playing it this to Dragon Ball logic, imagine there was no story, or whatever was actually being talked about was just boring in the middle of Goku going Super Saiyan, but like on fucking Namek kind of thing. That's all that it was. It's not, oh, hey, we gotta stop fucking Cell, and here's the story of Cell and the fucking androids or anything. No, it's just vain nothing burger. Goku's going super duper Saiyan now. That's what it is, just pure hype moments. I should call it a night as well. I have to go. But thank you all for following. My name is Notepad, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. If you have any ideas on this, feel free to talk to me about it. I find it fascinating. We will continue working on City on a Hill on Wednesday. I can kind of formalize it a little bit. I can formalize it down a little bit more. See what happens here. And I'm going to end up writing a script now. So thank you all. Godspeed. Good luck. I will see you all on the other side.